Perfect. All right. We're back. Fantastic. Excellent. Hello to everyone watching us on YouTube. Hello to everyone watching us on Facebook, joining us on Zoom. And that, again, allows us to be able to set up for our annual meeting, which there are some legal aspects to that, some votes and things like that we actually really do need to do on the 31st. So this is great because it allows us to kind of practice run some of those things before the 31st and to be able to talk about one of those cool things we've been working on. So we'll do that. Want to give you a sense of kind of what's going on. All right, so Simone is here. Simone, our Communications and Connections Director, and she is monitoring the chat. So if you're on YouTube, you can jump into the chat at any time. You can either email Simone directly, of course, or you can just put something in the chat, and if it's something that we need to address right now, live and right away, we got it. It is? YouTube's not getting any vocal?
Well, it's just cutting out the whole thing. Our bandwidth. I would suggest people shut down stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I'll close the Zoom and hopefully you can it won't die. I'm going to do that. We think we're back? Okay. And you're still good, Greg? Okay. So what we think we got going on is on YouTube, you can jump in on the chat and Simone will answer any questions there, or she'll send them to me and I'll answer them live. Kind of same on Facebook. Sarah's monitoring Facebook, and then Greg's monitoring Zoom. So we're just trying to give all of you as many opportunities as possible in order to engage with us on this process. So that's what's going on, all right? We're going to practice a couple of votes right here from the outset. We'd love that. So on the 31st, we have actual votes. We'll have, we think, only 2 votes, 1 voting on the budget and 2 voting on the leadership team. Hopefully nothing controversial, but we want to see which is our best voting option, all right? We want to see what is our best voting option. So we're going to take this one at a time. Don't do it all at once, all right? So vote number 1 first, just in the chat, right? We want you to put number 1 and then answer the question, will the Sonics return this year? That's your vote. So everyone, hopefully you're in YouTube, and hopefully you all put yes to that. So we want to just see on that vote how that is, what kind of response we get back. We'll be able to go back and review all that. Hopefully that makes sense. So right now, everyone, if you're watching on any format, Facebook, I guess vote there in the Facebook chat. Put question number 1, will the Sonics return this year? Yes or no? Okay. Then after that, question number 2. We're going to try this via email. We want everyone to email me, bill@hopesnowco.org. All right, we're going to see about that. So bill@hopesnowco.org, Zoom, Facebook, YouTube. Just send me an email to that. You can put 2 in the header. Will the Mariners make the playoffs in 2021? Hopefully I'll put yes to that too. If you think I may not have your email and want to put your name in there, that would be helpful. That would be great. All right, so 1 was in the YouTube chat, 2 was email, and now 3, we want to give you your option for both. And then, again, over the course of the week, Simone and I will figure out kind of how everyone voted. So on 3, either the chat or email, just vote, are you excited for 2021? Just put question 3, put your name, and we're going to see which of those gave us the best response for when we have to do this on the 31st for real. Does that make sense? Right? Good. So you voted in 1, you voted in 2, you voted in 3. And however you did it, honestly, don't worry about it, because now we'll go back and we'll see what was the best and easiest response, what was easiest for us. And then that's the format that we'll use on the 31st. On the 31st, we'll only be doing 1 format for voting, more than likely. So if we don't have any questions on that, you can raise questions in there. That's just to give us some practice votes. And if it was confusing, actually, you can feel free to put that in the chat as well and let us know that. But that's why we're doing this. Good. All right. Let's move on to some actual stuff. First, this is just informational. We think this is kind of cool. Amazon is going to rent a parking spot from us this next year. They're going to rent a parking spot. It's going to be not just... I keep thinking of it like a train car. It's not exactly as big as a train car, but think about it like that. They're going to rent a parking spot. There's going to be a little Amazon car. I'm sure it'll be branded as Amazon. And in that Amazon car will be a robot. Yes, this is all legit. Amazon wants to put a robot in our parking lot that is going to then deliver packages to our immediate neighborhood. They're paying us rent for it. And quite honestly, we're not using our parking lot a whole lot right now, so we thought, win-win. We'll get a little bit of rent. If we don't like it, it's a year-long contract, and then we can get out of it at the end of the year. We just kind of want you guys to know that if Amazon starts showing up with some branding here in our parking lot, we have not sold the building to Amazon. But if it means getting the Sonics here, we may have that conversation. So we'll just see how that goes. We just kind of want you guys to know that if you drive by church here, it should probably happen in the next month. You'll see that happen. They're giving us some rent for that particular thing. So it'll be cool. And yeah, now we'll have a robot to help take over the world right here in our parking lot. So that's just informational, but here's the real thing. Here's the real reason why we're here. Cars to housing. All right, cars to housing. Here, can we go to the next one? Yeah, perfect. So here's the idea. This is a program where we would work with the Interfaith Family Shelter. It's a ministry based right here in Everett, to create space in our parking lot, about 4 to 6 parking lot spaces, for families in housing transition, okay? This is a project where folks who have lost permanent housing but still have a car apply and are able to live in their car in a church parking lot for up to 90 days while they transition back into permanent housing. So this is temporary housing. It is designed for families. It is designed for families that, again, have been in housing and then have lost it for a variety of different reasons. And so while they're trying to find that space, they have a car. If you know the housing problem going on in Everett, this is a problem. There are people that are living in their cars. They are close to the ability of being able to get into full-time housing, but they've got that transition period. So Interfaith has created this program to allow people to park in parking lots, church parking lots, in order to have that time to transition. So we want to tell you a little bit about that idea. All right, next slide. So just a little bit of background why we think that this might be an option for us. Both Hope and Everett First Covenant have a great history of trying to create ways to help populations in need in our community. We've tried a lot of different ministries. We've helped a lot of different ministries. That's just part of our background. That is who we are. And so as part of that, we've hosted and run particular ministries. We have supported other ministries that people in our community were doing with finance and volunteer hours. As an example, of course, this last year, you heard us talk a lot about Claire's Place. You heard us talk a lot about Housing Hope. Those are 2 ministries right here in our community doing great stuff. Particularly during quarantine, we were able to financially support them. We weren't able to give much volunteer hours, but financially support those ministries in really powerful ways. And yeah, have been so thankful for that. So that's very, very cool. This particular idea kind of combines some of the best options that we have at our present. It actually utilizes a part of our facility, specifically our parking lot, and we want to be really clear, really that's it. But the program itself is run by an agency that specializes in this ministry. This isn't something that Hope would do. This isn't something that Hope would run. This isn't something that Hope would staff. This is something that Interfaith does all of that. They're just utilizing a resource that we happen to have, and it's not being used all that much right now, and that's kind of why this idea came up. So that's where this goes. Yes. Sorry if that print is a little small. But you all have young eyes, and I can read it right here. Okay, good. So here's what, this is a program that has actually been going on now for over a year. And because of that, we are able to share a little bit more information with you with it. So what has happened is that there was a church here in our community, here in the Everett community, that ran this for the last year. So they were able to figure out some of the bugs, some of the kinks, see how it might work. They've learned a couple things. One, this is still a need in our community, and in fact, when the eviction moratorium ends, the need will only grow. If you're not familiar with the eviction moratorium, we could spend some time talking about that. There are people who currently can't pay the rent. And once this moratorium goes off, they're either going to need to do that or they're going to end up out on the streets, back in their cars. So there still has been a need. There will continue to be a need for that. The program is run by Interfaith, and they do an intake, a screening. It's all done by them. We just want to be clear on this. We are offering our parking lot space, and that's it. We could increase our partnership if we so choose. There are ways that we could do that. And we'll talk about some of those things. But at its most basic level, if we decide to do this, if we decide to do this, we're really just giving up a little section of our parking lot. A couple things as we'll talk about, people can't just show up and take a spot. They have to be approved by Interfaith. Interfaith works with all these families that do that. And again, as part of the interfaith process, the maximum that people can be in these parking spots is for 90 days before they need to move into permanent housing. That's the goal of interfaith. That's the goal of all these people in their cars as well. They don't want to be living in their cars. They want to move out into permanent housing. One of the things we know, I'm not sure if this is on this slide or not, through the pilot program is that the vast majority of people that have been doing this at the other church, they were only there for about 30 to 45 days before they were already back into permanent housing. So the 90 days is the maximum, but almost no one got to that. They were actually able to move into full housing after that. Our thought is that, we're there at, they allow 5 spots for their program. They had a number of people go through the program over the year. Their success rate was in the high 60%, which, again, depending if you know this world or not, that's really, really good for a housing program. Interfaith would say that, and I would say that as well. There are some costs with this. We want to get that out from the outset. There's maybe $3,000 to $6,000 worth of fencing. We'll show you what that looks like. There does need to be a porta potty that would be out and available that also has water, so not just a normal porta potty. But that would be a contract of about $200 a month. There is some staffing that is involved for that. That's interfaith staffing. That's not us. But just as a note, Interfaith is committed to finding grants for all of those costs. Again, we as Hope, we could choose to financially support those things if we wanted to, or we could choose not to. We could, again, just be giving the parking lot as our option. So that's kind of that. All right, so that's what we know. Here's, we had a small group of people that worked on this for the last several weeks, months actually even, because again, we'd heard about the idea. We kept looking at our empty parking lot not being utilized all week, and we kept thinking, man, maybe that is an option for us. And so a small team worked on this, and then the leadership team spent some time talking about this, and now we're at the point, again, where we're bringing it to you. We're bringing it to you for a couple of reasons. One, because it's a good program that helps families in need, and that's what we do here at Hope. We're always trying to find ways to help families in need, so we're doing that. Again, 2, it utilizes a resource that we have, but we really aren't using right now. And the questions that it raises for us, as we've done some of the research on this, we've been able to figure some of these questions out and get some answers to it. That's why we're at this point of being able to bring it to you. We think there's a lot of positives from this, and we want to share that with you. As we come out of that. First off, just from a safety standpoint, let's look at that. So it's a little hard to see, and we didn't want to take too many pictures, but up there in the top left is the church that it's at. So what they do in their parking lot, they had a little section that they just now fenced in. They've got some signage on the fencing as well. And then any car that goes in there has this little kind of parking permit that they go as well. So from a safety standpoint, the only cars that are able to be in there are for people that have been screened and run through by Interfaith. There are a limited number of spots. Again, they have 5. And anybody else that ever shows up for whatever reason, they aren't able to be there. They actually can call the cops on them, and those people can get escorted away. So just from a safety standpoint, it's actually very easy to know who's supposed to be there and who isn't supposed to be there. They would tell you that after some initial challenges right from the very beginning that actually didn't become a problem anymore. Anybody that ever tried to show up, they got escorted out, and no one tries to show up anymore that isn't supposed to be there. So it's a little fenced-off area. It allows some privacy for those people that are in their cars. It's that simple. They park their car. They are, living in it. They have access to the porta potty. The vast majority of these people all work during the day. That's actually, again, why they're able to be in the position that they are in order to move into permanent housing shortly thereafter. So during the day, actually, you hardly see folks. It's usually during the evening that you would see the cars there. And again, the only cars that are able to be there are the ones that have the permit, and that's kind of that. So if we're going to do that, just from our standpoint, we would make a 1-year commitment. They asked for a 1-year commitment to give this a shot. If we were to do this, early summer is probably the target on when we might be able to get that done. So that's kind of going on. We think this actually increases the safety of our parking lot area. If you guys have been around Hope for a while, you know that we have some challenges with people that end up either around the church or in the parking lot or in the woods that aren't supposed to be here. We've done a lot of work in order to help out with that, and that's been good and that's been positive. And one of the things we've heard from this other church is that actually it helped in this process because there are people there all the time. But the people there are supposed to be there, and they don't want anybody else there that's not supposed to be there. So for them, for their experience, it was a net positive in terms of safety. So we think that might be true for us. We ask the questions, what do we do if we need our parking lot again, if it's needed, if it's full? People can move on Sunday. Again, they're just living in their car, so if for some reason we'd want that, we could. As we've just talked about it as a small group, we actually think the opposite. We would rather folks that would be here on a Sunday be here on a Sunday. That would actually be part of, I think, the ministry of what we do. But actually, the pastor there mentioned like 2 specific examples. They had one funeral for a person in the community. It was a very large funeral, and that was kind of a during the day thing. And so they just talked to those folks. Most of those people were gone to work anyway, and they just said, hey, we're going to need all the parking spots for this. And so just one example of there was a reason, and it worked out fine. That was totally fine. Or for us, you may recall, right before quarantine had happened and we were growing and we were actually looking at more parking, we had set up an arrangement where we all got to park in the dentist parking lot, just about 100 feet away from us. We could do that again if we ever needed that again. So that's kind of that option. Where it would go in our parking lot? Hey, how many of you have not seen this in a long time, right? There's our parking lot. And it looks like this most of the time with no one in it. Our thought is that it would go up against, again, the back area with the forest. One of the reasons why we would do some fencing. We think, again, none of this is set in stone. We think it might be on the right-hand side, on the Evergreen Street side, that we would go in that corner there. We think that allows a little bit of privacy in terms of the rock wall and the woods and kind of all those things like that. We've got just a simple map of how we could get 4 to 6 spaces in there. That's kind of where our heads are at if we were to do something like this, just so you can kind of visualize where that might be. So that's our thought. And then, yes, so the next steps. We, again, a small group of people worked on this, talked about this with leadership team. We've talked with Interfaith about this. We're at the point where we need your feedback, okay? We need your feedback. What do you like about the idea? What are your concerns? What don't you like? All those things. We need to hear that from you. I can't say this clearly enough. We're not voting on this today. We won't vote on this on the 31st either. We're not at that point. We're not at that stage. We are at the point where we need to find more information from you. Is this a good idea? Do you like it? Do you not like it? What can you think of that we have not thought of? So I want to hear that. As part of that, we want to be really clear on this too. We would get feedback from all of our neighbors on this as well. And this is really, really key. We learned this from the other church as well. They did not initially do a great job of that and then ended up doing a great job of that. The neighborhood around them is all very, very supportive of what has ended up there. It's been a huge positive for them as well. But yeah, they learned a couple things. And that is part of our challenge right now. they were able to go door to door and talk to their neighbors, and we're not sure we can do that right now. That's one of the reasons why we know we can't do this right now, because we would want to talk to our neighbors. And more importantly, we just want to be really clear. We haven't decided that we're going to do this. Some of you live in the neighborhood and have that. We need to be really clear as we talk with our neighbors about this. This is not a done deal. This is not a decision that has been made. We can't go to our neighbors and say, hey, we want your feedback, even though we've already decided to do this. That's not how it works. That's not what we're doing with you, and that's not what we want to do with them. So if you end up in any conversations with the neighborhood, please be very clear. This is just an idea. It is an idea that we like. Yeah, that's why we're talking about it. That's why we're bringing it to you. But it is still just an idea. And when we figure out a way to be able to talk to our neighbors about that, we'll make sure that we have that. So that's what we've got, and we can answer some questions now, or if you need time to think about it, you can email those questions in either to me or to Simone. So that is kind of the information that we have. And that was our informational meeting. So yeah, I'm going to stick around for a little bit. I know there's a little bit of delay on YouTube and everything else on Facebook, so I'll vamp for a few minutes and see if we've got any questions that come in or any questions that need to come in on the chat. I believe on YouTube right now is most of the team that has been working on this, so they can answer questions in the chat as well. The leadership team has, I think, all the information on this as well. I think most of them are monitoring the chat and other places. But again, if you're not ready to answer that or think of one maybe a little later on, you can email me, bill@hopesnoco.org, or simonecarroll.s1996@gmail.com. And if you're clever, you can probably figure out how old Simone is based on her. So one way to do it. All right, so yeah, just little points of review. Again, this is an idea. It is an idea we like. If it were to happen, probably soonest would be early summer. That's the target we think that we could maybe get it done if we were to do it. But yeah, a lot of that, again, is trying to figure out some of these logistics and being able to talk to our neighbors. So that would be tough. There are some hard costs to it. Hard costs that Interfaith is committed to finding for particularly the staffing. But they are costs that we could choose to help out with if we wanted to. And yeah, then in terms from there, are there other things that we could do with this particular program? Yes, of course, some people have raised good ideas and conversations about that, having a meal once a month with folks from there. They were doing that at the previous church. There were some cool things that were going on, but in quarantine time now, it is just that. It is just a parking lot spot. They aren't able to do any of the other kind of ministry options they've been doing. All right. So far, no questions, which is totally fine. Would there be a place to put the garbage? Excellent question. And yes, that would actually probably be just our dumpster. It might move. We might move kind of where that gets picked up just so it's a little bit easier for them, or we would have a garbage for them that we just then move into our dumpster. So right now, we aren't using our dumpster to its fullest capacity, so it wouldn't increase our costs at all. It might increase those costs if that were to change. Good question. Excellent question. Any others?
I just got
Are single dads allowed? Good question. So yeah, as you saw when they were talking about it, that this was designed for families. Interfaith, they've got a number of different programs, and for them, just from a target standpoint, they essentially had only families that they ever needed to use for this particular program. Any other single dad or things like that, they moved into another area. So in terms of would it be an option, I believe so, yes, but they never needed to utilize this program for that. That kind of makes sense. Wouldn't be for just singles, but yeah, single dad or single mom or anything like that. I think they had only one single mom actually in this last year. The rest were all two parents with kids kind of going through it. So Yeah.
A question about insurance company, liability-wise for us.
Excellent question. Yeah, about insurance. Very, very important, very key. Yes, this is something that, because it would be a ministry of the church, it would just be added on to the umbrella that we already have in terms of that. And our coverage, actually, we just reviewed that for the upcoming year. We're totally fine for something like that. That is a great question. Interfaith does it with us as well. Chris Price, maybe if you're watching, do you remember that conversation? Because I remember having that conversation, but I don't remember all the details on it. So, Chris, I think you're on YouTube. If you can remember that. If not, I remember having that conversation with Interfaith about that, and I remember it was fine, but I apologize, I can't give more than that. But it is a good question. It's something that we've looked at and would finalize before we would do it. Just as a side note, if there was a class that they didn't give us in seminary that they should have given us, it was on insurance. Man. Spend all my time figuring that out. Good stuff, good questions. All right, any more? No? All right, so again, on the votes that we did earlier, Simone and I are going to spend this week, might spend all week, try to figure out how we did that. And then, so we'll be ready for that on the 31st. Again, on the 31st, you'll hear a couple of things. You actually won't hear anything about this, maybe 30 seconds about it, but you'll hear about the budget, a budget review of 2020, and voting on the budget for 2021. That link is already out there. It's on our website, and it is in the email that we sent this last week, so you can check out the 2021 proposed budget. What we say this every year. We hope that we don't have any questions about our budget at the annual meeting, not because we don't want any questions, but because we've answered your questions beforehand. That's our goal. We want you to have questions. We just want you to have that information well in advance so that you can ask those questions ahead of time. We'll, of course, take questions on the 31st as well, but that's our goal, is that any question you might have had, we've already been able to answer. So email that in to me, to Simone, to Matt Lashua, who's in charge of finance, Chris Jacks, who's our leadership chair. Please get in those questions about the budget. The leadership team, we will also post who is going to be voted on for that, so you'll have a chance to do that. And then finance team, we technically don't vote on them, but we do a vote of confidence on them. So that'll all be at the annual meeting on the 31st. And then we'll give you just a couple other updates on some small stuff as well. But those are the only things that we'll be voting on, so it should be easy to do. All right, I see another question. Yes?
Somebody just asked, do you think it would attract other homeless around the perimeter of this area? Living in the neighborhood, there are many that live in the woods by Interurban Trail and also north of QXC.
Yes. Great question. And we asked this about 5 different ways at the previous church because they're in the same spot. They're actually right on the Interurban Trail and had a lot of challenges with that. For them, this has helped. Hasn't hurt in any way. In fact, it's done the opposite. No one can be there that isn't supposed to be there. And the people that are there, the people that are in their cars when they're there, when someone shows up, they call the cops immediately because they don't want anybody else there. This is now their home for a short amount of time. So for them, it's been pure positive. We can't guarantee that would be the case here, of course, but it was really encouraging to hear that was the case for them. So excellent question. The feedback that we got was that it actually does the reverse, that anybody who's not supposed to be here no longer feels welcome or comfortable because there are eyes that are keeping an eye out for that. So that's a great question. Simone, did you have one over there or? Nope. All right. Good. All right. I think we're going to wrap this up. We're going to close this up. Thank you so much. We'll close in prayer too. Oh, yep. Do they stay safe there? That is a really good question. They have been in the previous one. Anybody, I think, can imagine, I never have had to do it, living in your car, that's just got to be a hard thing and feel very unsafe. This, for them, the feedback, again, that we get, is that they feel more safe than normal because the reality is they would be they would be living in their cars on a street somewhere. Whereas here, they're living in a car where they know they've been screened and they're supposed to be there. And so that makes a big difference. They feel more safe than they would normally. It's still not where they want to be. Anybody that is, anybody that's living in the car, they don't want to be there. So they feel as safe as they could in that circumstance. All right. I'm going to say a word of prayer again. Email me, email Simone. We'll figure all this out. We'll give you some more feedback on that. We'll get ready for the 31st. Super thankful for everyone sticking around and joining in on this, and just, again, trying to roll with the quarantine punches. Really appreciate that. Thanks to all the people that showed up and help out. The tech team, they're amazing. They're fantastic. Give them a shout out. They just do incredible stuff. All right, let's say a word of prayer. God, thank you so much. Again, thank you for the ministries that we've been able to do in this past year. It has been remarkable and super cool what you have done through us. And as we brainstorm and dream about what we might do here in 2021 and beyond, we get that same thing. The creativity that just the world around us allows us to do some neat things. We look forward to that. So really appreciate God, the group of people here that listens to your voice. And bravely steps out to try all kinds of different things. We've done that all throughout our history. I know we'll do that in the future as well. In your name we pray. Amen. All right.